Okay, so it's been quite a while since I made the first video on this subject, and I was kind of waiting to see if there was enough interest to make it worthwhile because it took so much time and effort to make that first video. And now that I watch it again, I feel like it's really not very good. Particularly the audio. I made that decision to use the fake voice in there. I think it was a very bad decision, but at the time I just couldn't figure out how to record a real voice. I tried a few times and it was just terrible. So this is going to assume that you have some of the basics, and I did get a little bit of feedback, and so I'm going to try to talk about some of the questions that have come up and start to broaden a bit the sense of what it is that we're talking about here. So those of you who are still a little bit unfamiliar with this, we're talking about states of mind in time. So the basic idea is that each trigram is a representation of a configuration within the mind. And so regardless of whether or not it's a yin or yang line, the yin being the broken line, the yang being the solid line, the top line is a representation of the past, the middle line a representation of the present, and the bottom line of the future. And the yang line, when it's solid, means that there's a tension placed there. And so there is a focus and kind of an effort being exerted at that portion of the mental representation of time, because we all have within us the capacity to focus on what's happening now here in the present. We have the capacity to focus on the various things that we think make up the past, and we also have the capacity to focus on those things which we think will make up the future. And we are also able to combine those things. So we can try to correlate past with future, and that, of course, would be fire. So we're talking about a past and future, so top and bottom lines are where the attention is being placed. And the middle line, for the time being, a being in time has the option to focus on various aspects of time. So for the time being, with fire, the present is being sacrificed. Present is not paid attention to. There's an absence of intent on presence, or attention. So here we have a symmetrical trigram with the top and the bottom having the same type of line. In this case, yang, solid line. And so one of the other things that's worth keeping in mind here is that while these symbols look exactly the same, and in fact these symbols here in the upper left quadrant of each arrangement look the same, they are in fact not the same, because the trigrams move in opposite directions in the prenatal and postnatal arrangements. And so in the prenatal, the first line is on the bottom. And so in this case, what we're looking at is lake. Future and present are where the attention is placed. Past is forgotten. That's why it's joyous, because the past tends to, if you really think about how things were going before, and you're able to integrate past and future, which means that there's a correlation between what you think you're heading towards and what's happening, that's a joyous feeling. It's like, yeah, things are working out, right? And you don't want to think about any of the lessons of the past that might suggest that, well, that might be temporary, or maybe they're really not working out. As far as the state of mind is concerned, the past is irrelevant because this is what's happening and this is where we're going, right? And now in the postnatal, we'll see it's over here now I'm going to start to use the directional coordinates. And so this is the west, right? All of both the arrangements are set to the points of a compass with south at the top, east on the left. And so we have north on the bottom and west on the right. So in this case, Lake is here in the west, in the postnatal. Now, one of the questions that was brought up, which was briefly mentioned, is that in the prenatal, you can see that all the trigrams are opposite to their opposites. So you have 3 yang lines, you have 3 yin lines. You have yang, yin, yang, you have yin, yang, yin. Right? In other words, it's a balanced arrangement. And one of the things that was briefly alluded to is the idea that the trigrams naturally bring about their opposites. And so this is kind of based on a basic cosmological concept that all phenomena comes into being on the basis of a conjugal relationship with its opposite form. So, for instance, one of the things I've been interested in a lot lately is Ken Wheeler's description of the dielectric and magnetic fields. I'm probably going to use incorrect terminology here because I'm just kind of getting a grip on it. And what he basically says is that you have this conjugal relationship between the two, that the one produces the other, and that the interlocking forms which make up magnetic gradients of pressure are a interlocking centripetal and centrifugal field perturbation. I'm trying to avoid using words that lead in the wrong direction. And I think that the same might be said of operations within the mind. That the mind naturally produces, on the basis of its formation of a concept, the opposite concept. You could say that that's basically what Hegel talks about in the dialectical theory, that the abstract, or sometimes it's called now the thesis, is met by its negation, or the antithesis, and that it's through that dialectic that the concrete comes into being. Without the opposite, you wouldn't have either. That's basically what's being said. So let's think about it for a moment. So what does it mean, for instance, what we were looking at before here with fire? What does it mean to have the mind having its intention placed upon past and future? Well, what it means is that there's an absence of attention placed in the present. Now, how long can we go without attention placed on the present? You know, it's sort of like the absent-minded professor, right? Wandering around thinking of abstraction. At some point, there's going to be a wake-up call where something interrupts the reverie and you're brought back into, oh, I almost got run over by a bus. Something along those lines, right? And similarly, if you were to only exist within the water, yin-yang-yin state of mind, where the focus is only on the present, and so it's only sensation, there's no context for whatsoever, there will be a tendency for you to want to embody a fire mode, because it's impossible for things to continue without there being a rudder, without there being some kind of context and some sense of direction. It's basically like falling down the abysmal well into darkness, because all you have is sensation with no conception of what it's all about. And so the two co-create. There's no way you could have one without the other. They are in essence inextricably linked. They have a conjugal relationship. So you could say that in essence, all the trigrams are married to their opposites. There's no way that they can be separated. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'll go through the rest of the trigrams in the next video. I'm not going to do that right now because I have a feeling that something just went wrong with the recording, so I don't want to waste all my time on that. But I do want to mention one more thing, if I can remember it, which is... I think I forgot it already. I think I forgot the one more thing I wanted to mention. So I'll save it for the next video. I hope that you found that interesting. And I hope that this is a decent way of presenting some additional insight into the kind of thing that I'm exploring here. Okay, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.